If you're really enjoying my content here on YouTube and you want a little bit more, consider checking out my Patreon over on patreon.com/your100reviews. That's basically a way for me to upload content and not have the fear of being demonetized or shadow banned here on YouTube for whatever I say. I only talk about nerd stuff and I'm not controversial. So if you really enjoy my stuff, consider checking out my patreon.com/your100reviews. It's linked down below in the description, and you can join for as little as a couple of bucks. And there's about 10 episodes of an exclusive podcast there called Leaks and Lore. Right now it's just mostly lore stuff, but as soon as they start filming season 2 of House of the Dragon, that's when the leaks will be discussed. Alon, thank you for watching. Okay, so the topic of this video is going to be changes from books to show. I was going to wait until the season had completely ended, but we're coming up on the last episode, so there's, some additional changes that I'm sure will be made in episode 10, but I plan on making a few of these types of videos if you all enjoy them, so let me know down below. And one of the first major changes from books to show happened in the first episode, and most of these changes are actually really good. Like, there's one of them that I'm going to talk about that I don't necessarily like, but most of these changes have added more depth, more dynamicness to the character, and just making it a more visually appealing medium, right? So it's a translation, so things will be lost on translation naturally because George is giving us the omnipresent perspective in the sense, kind of, right? So we're getting 3 different perspectives. One person's a maester, one person is Mushroom, who was actually alive during the events, and the other one is sort of retelling the events from someone else who died during the story. But the change I'm referring to is Emiliano. Now here's the thing, Emiliano's birth, or birth on the TV show actually did happen to a character in canon. That was Alyssa Velaryon. That is Jaehaerys, the old guy that we saw in the very first opening scene of the show, the old king. His mother, Alyssa Velaryon, was married to someone named Rogaine Baratheon. She had multiple children, including Jaehaerys and Alysanne, right? Well, when she gets much older, this character, Alyssa Velaryon, who's in Fire and Blood, is not in the TV show, but this is her death and birth scene was given to Emiliano on the TV show, and it was done beautifully, right? It was really hard to watch, but that's just, it was intentionally done that way. It was perfectly executed, right? Where, medieval childbirth was not something that was pretty, and neither is childbirth today, right? So anyway, Rogaine Baratheon gets Alyssa Velaryon pregnant, and this is Jaehaerys' mother, and she's so old that the pregnancy, she starts labor a month early, and it actually sends her to death's door. And, Jaehaerys and Rogaine Baratheon have a falling out. He's basically saying, like, did you not have enough children? Why did you get my mother pregnant? But anyway, that was done for Emiliano. What happens to Alyssa is she's cut open, and then she dies when Jocelyn Baratheon is born. So this is kind of what happened with Balon and Emma. They cut her open, she dies, Balon is born, but then ultimately dies a few days later. Now that change was actually amazing. That was one of the best changes they've made from books to show, because what happens to Emiliano in the books, in Fire and Blood, is basically she dies while giving birth to Balon, and he dies. That's literally it. She dies during childbirth, but it is mentioned specifically that she has several miscarriages and stillbirths. So the fact that Viserys is still trying to get her pregnant with a child, it translated very well to screen the way they changed it. So the next change I want to talk about, and this one I'm not that excited about, but it potentially could come back in a really good way. Laenor's death. Obviously, Laenor was supposed to die while attending a fair in Spicetown on Driftmark, right? He was not too far from his house. It's mentioned in the books that Rhaenyra and Laenor would spend their time apart. Like, they had kids together, and you can't see me, but I'm doing air quotations, the strong boys, but they ultimately spent their marriage apart. Laenor spent most of his time High Tide, Driftmark, Spicetown, right? And then Rhaenyra would be on Dragonstone. She's the Princess Dragonstone. She'd be there banging it up with Sir Harwin Strong. So Laenor is killed by Carl Corey in a duel and while attending a fair at Spicetown, and it's mentioned in the books that there could be a possibility that he was hired by Daemon to be killed so that Daemon could open up Rhaenyra for marriage. In the TV show, that's not what happened. Rhaenyra and Daemon work with Laenor via Carl Corey to fake his death, and they kill some random servant in House Velaryon, and Laenor is still potentially out there with his dragon, Sea Smoke. Like, his dragon's not with him, but he's with Carl Corey. He shaved his hair, and he's across the Narrow Sea. That's a massive change from the books, and the reason why I say I'm not too excited about it is because it seems like his death was sort of quintessential in the books, in that it opened up his dragon for another rider, and also Rhaenyra and him, the relationship wasn't really going anywhere. So Daemon and Rhaenyra is like, in Valyrian and in Targaryen tradition, should have been married from the get-go. So his death is like, yes, he's a gay character, and it sort of sucks that George kills him off like the way he does, but ultimately they could have changed it a little bit on the show and still kept in canon. I don't really know what's going to happen. I don't want Adam of Hull to be replaced by Laenor, because that makes absolutely no sense. Adam of Hull is like 15 years old when Corlys legitimizes him as a member of House Velaryon. And it also adds like an extra layer of, oh, Corlys isn't the best dude because he potentially had bastards while still married to Rhaenys. And the only reason why he brings them forward is because Rhaenys dies at the Battle of Rook's Rest. So when you don't kill Laenor that way and you open up the possibility for him to become Adam of Hull, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like the only way that would make sense is if Corlys is dead, right? So most of the people that would recognize Laenor and not call him Adam of Hull would have to be dead and not necessarily see him. And that's just silly. One thing that I haven't mentioned in my videos here, but I have mentioned it in my Patreon podcast, which is just another reason to go join over there, is the possibility of how much Arax looks like Sea Smoke. And since dragons can change their sex at will, maybe Sea Smoke at one point was going by a female, had a clutch of eggs, and this is where Arax was born. That would be really cool to do, because Arax looks very similar to Sea Smoke. But just sort of moving on here, you all let me know what you think could potentially happen with the Laenor death or misdeath down below in the comment section. Okay, so the last two things to this video, the first one, Mushroom. Mushroom is not in this show. Like, he could be the Indian dwarf fellow who was drumming at Rhaenyra's wedding, but he's only been seen in that one scene. We haven't seen him sneaking around anywhere else. And I've watched each episode of this show 3 times. More than that, technically, but like 3 times all the way through. And I have not seen anybody that has been a dwarf on this show except for this Indian fellow. So Mushroom is completely missing. That is a break from canon that I'm not that excited about, but also I could see why they want to like just sort of wait to reveal him, because there's some scenes, potentially the dragon seed moment, and when Rhaenyra has lost Lucerys, where she would need her, you know, her fool around her to sort of cheer her up, and that would be a cool reveal for season 2. And then the last thing that I want to talk about for this video, remember, I'm going to do many more. There's many. I could do like a 10 video series on all the different changes from books to show, good and bad. Most of them have been good, aside from, you know, Rhaenys bursting through the floor, right? That was an awesome visual, but I did not like that change from canon. Yeah, Rhaenyra and Alicent's relationship is something that has been made amazing for the TV show. Like, initially in Fire and Blood, you just get that, oh, well, the queen had a daughter with his first wife. She's his heir. He never changes that. And one of the reasons why Alicent and Rhaenyra hate each other is because Alicent is able to successfully lose all of the baby weight from the multiple children that she has, and she still looks young and beautiful. And Rhaenyra is chunky. She's a chonker. She doesn't exactly lose all the baby weight quickly, and she looks much older than Alicent. And that is one of the main reasons why they don't like each other. Like, obviously, the vitriol that they pass down to the children, and their children, you know, obviously Aemon does lose his eye by Lucerys in the books, so that would make them hate each other more. But what they've done on this TV show by starting them out as friends.
Friends? How many of us have them? Friends?
Ones we can depend on, let's be friends. Early on, and that kind of is canon in the books, like, Alicent was at part of court. There's rumors that she slept with Jaehaerys before Viserys was made king. There's also rumors in the books that Alicent slept with Viserys before Aemma Arryn even died, right? So Alicent is very promiscuous. But the relationship that they give her in the TV show is amazing. Like, they make her so innocent. They make her... She was my favorite character until episode 8. Like, I literally was like, oh man, Alicent, you were so much more likable than in the books. And the dynamic that she has with Rhaenyra of, like, the two of them initially getting along, and then it's like a distrust and a mistrust from basically a misunderstanding that starts the hate. Because Alicent is very dutiful, right? She is sleeping with this old man and producing heirs, and Rhaenyra is not. She has a conversation with Rhaenyra where she tells Rhaenyra, she thinks it's kind of romantic that all of these men are seeking Rhaenyra's hand for marriage. And Rhaenyra says, oh yeah, they just want to lock me up in a castle and just, impregnate me and have me pump out these kids. And Alicent mentions, oh, isn't that kind of romantic? So that's initially where the wedge gets driven in between them, and it just grows over the episodes. It is amazing. I love what Ryan Condal has done with the relationships from book to TV. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please slap a like on this video. The like goal is going to be 420. Make sure you're subscribed. I'm really close to, ending the shadow ban entirely. It's still in effect. My videos still aren't showing up in the ranking system, so I'm asking you, please subscribe, please like, and please leave me a comment down below. Also, consider checking out my Patreon over on patreon.com/SirHuntReviews. I want to thank every single member over there. Along that, and thank you for watching. Zaltrizas pusdari ixostaur.